Presented by the Making Star Wars Podcasting Network. This is the Cantina Cast, your watering hole for thought-provoking Star Wars discussion, character dissections, quote and scene analysis, honest opinions on the Star Wars news that interests you, and whatever else these guys come up with. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joao.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 196 of the Cantina Cast. I'm your host, Mike, and of course, as always, I am joined by Joao. Joao, say hello to all the fine folks.
Hello there.
Well, tonight we gotta. It's kind of fitting, Joao, that we would start the show with a little bit of Kenobi rumors and work our way into the Darth Maul character dissection. It's kind of fitting that this happened all at one thing. So if you've been living under a rock and you didn't see all these things last week, if you're like our buddy Dan over at Coffee with Kenobi and don't want to know anything, which is crazy, I don't know how he does that. But in any case, if you're like us, you've seen things on Twitter, on Facebook, and whatnot. And that is the rumor that the Kenobi movie, or the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, is in the works with Disney and Lucasfilm and all that other stuff. Now, this is like the best kept worst secret, I guess you could say. This is something we've always speculated. We've talked on the show. This is like the first spin-off movie that we even thought about. So this is nothing surprising. I know maybe a month or so ago, we said we don't even want it anymore at this point because just leave it alone. Enough with the big three. Even with Han Solo, you kind of crossing the streams a bit, and then Obi-Wan too. He's a beloved character, one you don't really want to mess up or muddy the waters, so to speak. So I don't know, Joe. I'll throw it to you. What do you think? I mean, there are ways they could pull it off, but do we really want to do that?
Yeah, my first take on all of this is, pretty much that I saw immediately when it happened, there were people out there. Well, it's official. They're working on it. Well, no, Hollywood Reporter, I think, was the original ones who are making
Correct.
This claim about a director is in the works, but there's no script. Ewan McGregor's not signed on. So basically, we were at the same point we were at in 2012. So it's still a rumor. It's not official. I even posted on my Twitter, which I don't even post a lot on Twitter anymore. But I said, I didn't see Disney announce it, so how is it official? Because that would be the definition of official. So I've seen YouTube videos that are using that, and they're, it's all clickbait. We know that. It's all, but it's misrepresentative, and I've always been not a fan of that kind of stuff where you're misrepresenting what you're kind of trying to say, because it's not official. It's nowhere near official yet. I do think the movie is going to happen. I've always thought that the movie was going to happen. So it's not a shock. And so when Disney actually announces that it's going to be a movie and it's official,
Well, to counter that, they haven't denied it. They haven't said, no, this isn't happening.
But they don't. But what do they respond to, though?
Not much.
Yeah, exactly. Really, the only thing that they've ever responded to in the Star Wars, galaxy is like, no, Snoke's is an original character. That's like the only thing they will tell us about anything when the fans bring anything up. Like everything else is just like, think what you want, I guess. It's free hype. It's free, publicity for them, I guess, when people get excited. So I just want to put it, it's still a grain of salt. And even if it happens, we're looking at, this movie is years and years away probably from happening. I would guess. I would guess this movie is probably at least 4 or 5 years away from being released, if they even got everything together. So, it's not official. So let's not be like that. And I'm talking to the other media sources out there. I don't know if any of them listen to this podcast. I really don't care if they do, but it's like, let's, have at least some integrity. It doesn't mean we can't talk about these things. It doesn't mean we can't speculate. I'm not saying that. I just don't want to, I just hate this. Like, oh, well, you're telling, because there's a certain sect of the fan base that's going to think that, oh, well, it's really happening, when it's not yet. No, it's not really happening, but it's kind of like lying to people. So like I have a beef with that. And when it is official, I'm going to get probably pretty excited for it. When they say, yeah, Ewan McGregor's back, and I don't have any doubt that will happen. But this isn't the first time this has come up. You know what I mean? Like this is
it's once a year, twice a year.
It's like to me, this is just like the original movies are going to get re-released in their original, format and cut and everything else, and they're going to release those on DVD or whatever. And that story crops up every 8 months or so, or every year since Disney bought Star Wars. So yeah, I mean, just anyway, I'm done with my rant on that. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about like what story we think they could explore or something if and when they do the movie. And again, I think they will do it, but at this point you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Well, I'll say this, story-wise, we've pitched a few ideas, and there's two ways you could look at it. The one way, which I think works very well, and you can kind of retcon it, is the one that we've always said, where it goes to that line in Return of the Jedi, Obi-Wan once thought as you, and then we got the line where he's more machine now than man, which could tie into what I've said before in the past, and you have as well, Joe, is where we said, well, maybe Qui-Gon comes to him while he's on Tatooine. Say it's like 6 years after Revenge of the Sith, and says, no, he is the chosen one. You got to redeem him, do what you got to do, and blah, blah, blah. Obi-Wan goes off and faces him one more time. It's a draw yet again, and he maybe believes that Obi-Wan's actually dead. And then that kind of plays into the line with A New Hope. I haven't felt that presence since, that whole thing. You could tie it in that way. And what works with that is you get Vader back on the screen, and you get Obi-Wan clashing sabers again. And that works very well. And that would probably sell, but people would bitch, of course, because it's like, well, you're ruining the canon, blah, blah, blah. But you could point out easily, you can connect the dots this way, and it would work. The other way is the Seven Samurai movie, which you and I are in favor of, but I don't think that'll sell well to the audience, and you don't really get Darth Vader on screen again. So I don't know if that'll work, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on, quickly, what kind of a movie you think they could pull off here?
Yeah, we pitched that one that you're talking about, where maybe he goes and tries one more time to redeem Vader, and then this and that or whatever, and I've fallen out of love with that idea, I think, over time. And because we're talking about, I think that we talked about that idea probably 4 years ago on the podcast. And, sometimes you have an idea and you're like, oh yeah, that would be cool. And then, time goes by and it's like, now you're right. I mean, it would be, you could connect the dots. You could make it fit in the canon. I'm kind of tired of them trying to make things fit in the canon though. Like it's really cumbersome, and it's hard.
They're muddy in the waters. They're getting close to making a big goof. I mean, Rogue One was cutting it pretty close, if you ask me, but that's just my opinion.
Well, this is what I've always, and it's all with the comics and the novels and everything. This is what I've always said. You have so much content and so many hands and so many cooks in the kitchen that this can happen. So, that's what I worry about. And again, yes, I mean, we love Ewan McGregor. We love, him as Obi-Wan, and that would be great to see him get back into that role. But at the same time, I have to just go back and say, when are they going to take the leap of faith that Star Wars is more than just the rebellion era? When are they going to take that leap of faith and take the movies, it's more than Han Solo. It's more than the Death Star. Like, when are they going to go back? When are we, I've said there's so much talk on the internet about Plagueis, and okay, yeah, he's not Snoke, whatever. But how many people out there wanted that to happen? Why not make that into a movie? Something like that. You could redo it, make it more exciting than maybe the book. I love the book, but the book is very political and sort of dry for some people, but you could rework it or do, the Old Republic that we've talked about 8,000,000 times on this show. It's just like, I just wonder how long can they just not take a real chance? Because I guess you could say, well, they're taking a chance in one way of doing the Han Solo film and Rogue One, and they're taking chances by trying to fit everything into canon, but at the same time, they're not taking chances by going outside of what normal casual Star Wars fans know. But I think if you slap Star Wars on the title of the movie, I think people are going to pay attention and check it out. So I don't think it's that big of a danger to go into these other eras of Star Wars that, haven't really been explored in movies, at least anyway.
No, I definitely agree. It's time to. I think the one that we would like. All right, we've done the Rebellion era and stuff. We'd like to get into, I guess you could call it the Force Awakens era, or in between Return of the Jedi and that. We'd like to do that, but they're handcuffed right now because they don't want to give away all this stuff until the sequel's done or close to done. Maybe when 8 is kind of out there for a while, they'll start to loosen that up and get into more of those stories. I hope they do. I wish they would, but there's no indication that they will. So for now, I guess we're still going to stay in the Rebellion era because that's popular, that's nostalgic, and people are familiar with it. Like, it's funny because people just don't seem to want to branch out and explore what else could be out there. I don't know why, but hey, you never know.
But that's the thing. That there's so much clamoring from the fans about when you look at the negative feedback that's out there about The Force Awakens and the apprehension that is out there about The Last Jedi. And I'm not saying that it's all negative. I'm not saying that it's all apprehension. But if you look at those sects of the fan base that are saying those kinds of things, they're talking about it not being fresh, not being new. And, you're just retreading kind of the same things. Now, there's arguments to be made of that, and we've made them before, and I'm not going to get into it here in this news segment. But, I just don't. That's the thing. It's like, when are they going to maybe start? The Han Solo thing, like, I see just as much negative going into that movie as I have ever seen. And that was even before the whole director thing with people on social media, like, why are you even doing this movie? And then when the director thing happened, there was I told you, just cancel the movie, just, I've seen more negative feedback. I can't believe the negative feedback heading into a Star Wars movie, not post, but going into it. It's just, it's amazing how much negative feedback and negative vibes there are out there about that movie. And, we aren't, it's a wait and see with us, with the Han Solo movie. It's like, okay, like, how can they really pull this off? How can someone else really play Han Solo in a live action? And is this really going to work? And are we going to buy it? So, well, the one thing that stuck out at me is I'm surprised we heard anything about this. I mean, whether it's clickbait or whatever you want to call it, I was surprised we did, because I thought we were getting, like, maybe putting the spinoffs on the back burner until, like, Han Solo is settled and all that stuff because of the negative stuff. You get the Trank stuff and all that other stuff that's happened with the spinoffs, like the reshoots with Rogue One and everything. Mike, Disney didn't announce anything, so you're right. But they might still be doing that. You might not be wrong on that.
True, and that's why I'm just surprised we had any kind of indication, because you could look at it two ways. Maybe Disney's going to announce something at maybe, I don't think they'll do it now, because it would have to be after the Han Solo movie, you would think, because now you got all the Last Jedi stuff coming up, and then you get the Han Solo stuff coming up, and then after that, there's nothing really on the pipeline other than Episode 9's getting under the way, and maybe you say, oh, all right, this is the next one that's coming out, which is Obi-Wan, which seems the most logical, but I don't think, I think it's maybe premature to say that maybe it's been in the works. It's been in the works probably for 3 years with Ewan and a bunch of script writers and all these other things, so who the hell knows at the end of the day? But if they're going to do it at some point, and well, that's just the way it is. So let's get into Darth Maul. And this is funny because we're going to be starting with the comics, which I didn't read at all, Joe. Well, I read snippets of it. I didn't really get into it that much. But so I'm going to defer to you on the comics, because you said they were actually pretty good, which is ironic because at the top of the show we were kind of saying, well, with the comics and blah, 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 blah. But in any case, let's get into this. So what do we got in Darth Maul with the comics first, sir?
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to touch on this first in our dissection of Maul, because it actually came out this year. They're relatively really new, actually. They came out this year, but they're pre-Phantom Menace. So I went to the comic book store. One of the stores I work is right by a comic shop, and they had them there. So it was a 5-series run. So I read them last week, and then I read the Sons of Dathomir, and I didn't rewatch the Phantom Menace because Darth Maul's not in it enough. I think I can remember, kind of what was happening with Maul in that one. So, and then of course, I did rewatch all of Clone Wars, not all of it, all of the Darth Maul stuff. And then I tried to watch at least his, and then I had to look up his death scene on YouTube because, my on demand is trying to make me buy Rebels and doesn't let me watch any of the episodes for free right now. So I was like kind of disappointed in that. I was going to watch the season 2 finale, but I'll just have to try to remember it off the top of my head. So with the comic here, I wanted to jump in with this because it's kind of a cool tie-in. They've got some Rathtars in the 2017 Darth Maul comic at the very beginning, and he's fighting them for sport. He's just like, he wants a challenge, and he's fighting these Rathtars. So it's kind of a cool connection to the new Star Wars stuff with, The Force Awakens and all that. And then he's, to me, I mean, right away, you kind of see, and this is going to be a thing I plug throughout the entire dissection, is that he's basically an animal in a lot of ways. And I'm not even, and I know that's the joke with Yoda, but I think I'm being serious this time. Darth Maul is a rabid beast. He is an animal. And, obviously you look at his features, he was obviously made to look like a demon, like the devil. That was George Lucas specifically went for that look because he looked like a demon and a devil and someone who was bad. It was that was the motif imagery he was going for. So he's fighting these Rathtars and going for sport, but his bloodlust is insatiable, Mike. And when he's going back to Coruscant because his master is on Coruscant, Palpatine, the senator at that time, and he's stalking Jedi in the street, and he wants to reveal himself to them so bad and prove that he's worthy, and he wants to defeat them, but he can't because it's, right now they're not ready to, it's not the Sith way at this moment. They're not ready to reveal themselves. And it's just very interesting to me. And this is why this comic is so good to me, this 5-series run, because it's really simple, but this is probably some of the best character stuff. So I suggest people go read it if they haven't already. It really helps out Darth Maul's situation here. And I'll tell this to you, Mike, since you didn't get into this comic as much, and see what you think about this. I guess Palpatine took him to like some kind of a Sith tomb. I didn't catch in the comic if it was a particular place, but he took him like this Sith tomb where like all these people, all these Sith are dead. I don't know who really killed them. Maybe it was when Bane slaughtered the Sith and got it to the rule of 2, and Palpatine was lying, which would be great if that was the case. But
Palpatine doesn't really lie. He kind of stretches the truth a bit.
But what it does is he shows him all these atrocities the Jedi committed long ago against the Sith, and Maul like freaks out, and now he wants revenge for like his Sith ancestors. So like Maul is like all about the Sith. It's almost like I don't want to like use like a wrong reference here, but it's almost like, I don't know, like, with, maybe like when the Americans, when they imprisoned the Japanese Americans, during World War II, and they put them in the camps, because they were afraid, they oppressed them, or even going back to, what the Civil War was all about with slavery and all of that. And then you have these people years later who are still angry over what they didn't even see in their lifetime. And rightfully so, their ancestors had to suffer. And that's kind of where I'm going with Maul here, is that Palpatine endured him to this. He showed him this for a specific reason. And right away, this is Maul's carrot. This is the way he controls Maul and gets him to, he uses Maul for his bloodlust.
Well, the thing with Maul and his overall characters, from what we see, even in the Phantom Menace, and I'm not going to jump ahead here, but at this point, based on everything you're telling me, and things that I've heard about the comics and everything with his early development with Maul, is he is that demon full of bloodlust, and he doesn't seem like, it's almost like you got in your notes here, he's a shark. He he doesn't think much. He just hunts for what he thinks is right, like in a way, like to survive or to prove himself to his master. That's what matters to him. So it's interesting we go from here where he's the animal, he's the shark, he's got bloodlust, he wants revenge, and he wants to do these things, to where we end up with him. So that's an interesting how it starts, which you want in a character. You want to start from A and get all the way over to Z here, and it makes it interesting.
I don't know if we get all the way there with Maul. I think Maul doesn't have quite, and we'll get there with his death scene, and we'll tie this in with it all, but I don't think his arc is that high of an arc, if you will. Like, I'm using hand motions here, like making a big arc with my left hand here as I record. I know you can't see that, but I think his is much more of a like his arc is not a big arc. I think it's a smaller arc, because I don't think that his character grows, and I don't as much, and I don't necessarily think that that's a flaw in any kind of storytelling. I think it's purposeful, and I think that it's true to a lot of people, because some people never really grow a whole lot. There isn't this whole big, some people just don't have big arcs in their life. You're who you are, and you learn, you have some experience, but you kind of set in your ways, and it's not this big overarching thing. Now, he does have some things that we'll get into, but like I mentioned, he was the shark, but he doesn't want to upset Palpatine. So he doesn't want to interfere and kill these Jedi.
Well, let me interject here, because just to comment on what you were saying with his growth as a character, I'm not saying that he, it's like this overwhelming arc like Luke or Anakin or anything like that. I think for Maul's character, what he was to what we end up seeing, it's kind of a step or two or three above, and that's
because in the Phantom Menace there is no arc. Like, there is nothing.
There's nothing.
It's a straight line. It's not even a heartbeat at this point. It's a straight line. He is what he is, and he's just a character thrown in there, and he looks really cool. And so the Phantom Menace part of this will be really short. But
well, let me say this now. The interesting thing is he's in the shark mentality or the hunter mentality, in this revenge mentality. But he did learn, and this I think plays later on when we get into the Clone Wars action, is he does have great patience. You know what I mean? Like this is the one lesson like he really learned from Palpatine that really paid off for him, because he could, if you think he's that mindless killer, he would have been killing the Jedi right offhand. Like, Anakin probably would have went loose full. Like, he's got more patience than Anakin in a way as a Sith apprentice. What do you think?
Just rewatching the Clone Wars recently, maybe it was because of the pacing of the Clone Wars and those episodes, and he's not in a lot of the episodes. It's only it's like a handful. Like, I think it was like 4 episodes or something total. It's not a lot, and they rush a lot of it out. So maybe it was the way they told the story, and it felt really not forced. I liked it, so I don't want to say the word forced because it has a negative connotation to it, but it felt really, really fast moving. So maybe that's where I'm not getting the patience thing from with him. He does show some patience in the Clone Wars, I'll give you that, but because Pre Vizsla wants to like jump right in and go to war. He's like, we could do it now. And Maul's like, no, we need to wait, this and that. But I think that goes into my larger point that Maul is not as smart as he thinks he is. He's nowhere near as smart as he thinks he is. He sees himself as Palpatine's student, but Palpatine, I don't think he's not on that level.
As a weapon.
Yeah, he's not on that level at all. Dooku, in a way of Palpatine's apprentice, had his own experiences and a long life before he became Palpatine's apprentice. So he was smart because of those experiences and things like that. But getting back on the Maul, in this comic, like, he has a lot of the internal thoughts, and it comes to fruition later that Palpatine set all of this up because, of course, that's the way it always is. But there's this Jedi Padawan, Eldra Catus, who's been taken hostage by like these gangster auctioneer type people, and she's going to be auctioned off. So Maul's like, hey, I found out about this. Of course, Palpatine knew. You come to find out, but he's setting Maul up so he can kind of get like, hey, it's out here, like in the Outer Rim gangster area, and you can kind of kill yourself a Jedi here and kind of, sustain your bloodlust or whatever. I'm giving you a challenge. Here's your challenge. You don't got to go hunt Rathars. That's the whole point of this comic. And so he goes out there and he meets up with Cad Bane and Aurra Sing and this other little rascal. I can't remember his name, but he wants to like eat people and stuff. And I liked him a lot. So they end up getting into this thing with him, and so they end up kidnapping the Jedi Padawan Eldra, and she's like very temperamental, and Maul sees that he could possibly turn her to the dark side, but he doesn't dare do it because he doesn't want to upset his Palpatine. He doesn't want to betray Palpatine. And then Eldra gives him a good match in the end, but Maul ends up impaling her and kills her after they get rid of all these other people. And then the auctioneer who originally sold them off, who sent all these other people to get them because they kidnapped her and kind of ruined the auction thing. She knows he's a Sith, and then he just turns his lightsaber on and just kills her. He's like, because you can't know I'm a Sith. So he's all about protecting the Sith, protecting the secret, but he just wants to kill. He wants a challenge. And Eldra gives him more of a challenge than he thought she would. And he's like, okay, this is just a Padawan. Maybe she should be a knight, because this is his thinking. He has a lot of internal thoughts in this comic. And he's like, maybe she should be a knight, because are all the Jedi that I'm going to face in my lifetime, are they going to be this strong? Are they going to be this tough, this much of a challenge for me? So there's kind of a, like, I hope that's the case, but there's also maybe some worry, like, oh, this is going to be tougher than I thought at the same time. So, overall, it was a real simple story and leading into the Phantom Menace, and Palpatine kind of grants him that, thing with going after the Jedi. And even though we can't reveal the Sith yet, but here's your chance to kill a Jedi for the first time. So, it was pretty cool. And I suggest anybody to go read those comics, because they weren't that far out there. They were pretty cool and entertaining, and it's only a 5-series run. So, but yeah, I got a lot out of it.
Well, let me ask you this: where he's doubting himself, maybe internally, there when he goes against this Padawan, is this what plays into his role in the Phantom Menace? Where, and we'll segue into the Phantom Menace here, when he's confronting like Obi-Wan at this point, like he took out the old master. He's like, all right, this is easy. I'm feeling pretty good. And then he runs into another Padawan who is pretty strong, and he did touch on the dark side. Is it some point like maybe Maul had a bit of doubt, and that's maybe why things turned out the way? Because he looked befuddled when Obi-Wan jumps up and does his thing and takes him out. And so I'm wondering if Maul really had that confidence, or was it really just false confidence in a way?
Well,
or maybe
no,
I think
I think he had. He was supremely confident once he killed Qui-Gon Jinn. I have no doubt about that. And I think his problem is he taunted Obi-Wan. He could have killed him. He could have, Obi-Wan's hanging. He could have reached that double-bladed lightsaber down and just cut his hands off and let him fall. You know what I mean?
True.
But he didn't. He's sparking it up. He's like, doing this and kind of walking back and forth. He is relishing the moment, because that's what Darth Maul does. He wants to feel like he is all about adrenaline. He's all about excitement. He wants that rush. He wants to feel that passion as long as he can. He wants to, because that's what the dark side is. It's a drug, and he wants to feel that drug as long as he can. And that's my perspective on this. And he wants to feel it as long as he can. And he's sitting there taunting Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan flips up and does what he does, and Maul can't believe it. And then obviously we think that he's dead. He probably should be dead, and this should be the end of the podcast, but he's not. So,
well, I'll say this at this point in time, he's got two things that I think he's very loyal to Sidious, which is kind of incredible. I mean, obviously that changes when he realizes that Sidious used him as we go on here, and then we get into the Clone Wars. I want to mention something, that one moment with when Sidious shows up and everything. But, he's got the patience, he's got the loyalty to a degree, and this revenge factor. Like, he really fed into the brainwash nonsense. Like, he really bought into it. And I'm wondering it.
And that's what Palpatine did. If you go back to that pre-Phantom Menace comic that they brought out here this year, that's the thing he does that's Darth Maul's carrot is he killed your ancestors, or the Jedi killed your ancestors. That's what he used, because Darth Maul didn't have a Padme. He didn't have a Republic like Dooku that he cared about. Like, Palpatine seduced all of his apprentices in different ways. He used different means of, he used different carrots. I'll keep using that word, of getting them to buy into what he was doing. And he basically just, in another way, manipulated Maul and said, you're a Sith and this is what your ancestors had to go through. It's, it's cult mentality type stuff, or however you want to describe it.
True. Yeah, very true. Well, I guess we'll get into the Clone Wars here with Savage, who turned up, and we thought this was interesting that Savage, was the brother of Maul. And then at the end of the season, we find out that he's going to go out and find his brother, who we all thought was dead. And of course, we come upon Maul, because Maul is broken into Spider-Man, guess you could say. Like, he's a spider, he's a creature. And that kind of fits with what you were saying with his character in the pre-comic there, Joe, of the Phantom Menace, where he's kind of an animal. And this is personified right here, where he's living like an animal. He's eating off the garbage and everything, all that stuff. And
and all he remembers is revenge. All he remembers is Jedi and Kenobi.
What was taken from him,
Yeah, and he doesn't remember a whole lot, it doesn't seem. And he's crazy. He's completely broken. And, until Talzin gets a hold of him, and she's ripping things out of him, like these spirits or something. It's like to me, it's like she was ripping demons out of him, if you will. There was like these black ghostly figures when she was like moving her hand. If you watch that episode, she was moving her hand when she's doing her little magic show on him.
Well, he does concentrate on the dark side,
it's like,
to keep him alive. Yeah.
Well, and they talk about, you talk about, demons in your personality, and like, I gotta conquer my demons. It was like she was ripping these mental demons that were blocking him from remembering. That's the way I looked at it, is she was taking those mental barriers out of him in a way. But obviously he is still kind of a demon. He's still dark side and kind of this evil animal, beast, a beast incarnate, if you will. Like, that's really what he is. But Talzin gets him back into at least better shape than he was.
Well, she fixes what was damaged, or at least he becomes focused. I wonder if it, in a way, is like Mother Talzin with her magics. Is she like, she took out all those demons or whatever, but is she putting in something that stabilizes him and makes him even smarter than what he was before, where he was just a hunter-killer type of thing?
Get from jumping ahead a little bit to the Sons of Dathomir, I wouldn't have any which is canon, even though I think that that's not a Marvel comic. It was like the last Dark Horse thing they brought out, right? But they're saying this is actually canon because it was based on the Clone Wars stuff. So I had to look it up and make sure that it was still canon. Everything I could find said it was still canon. So Sons of Dathomir were, and she's kind of like the spirit at that point. So, and it took everything out of her to like rebuild Maul. So I think that's why she became the spirit, if I'm not mistaken. So I think a part of her is in Maul. So I think that I think you're on to something there, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. So now his big thing, after he's been kept alive and Talzin brings him back from the dead, gives him his fake legs there, his bionic legs and whatnot. Obviously, revenge is on his mind. And this is now his new goal that keeps him focused and it gives him that purpose. But it's interesting how he goes about that revenge, where you and I would think, all right, the Maul we knew in the Phantom Menace would just go out, find Obi-Wan and kill him, which is funny because that's where we end up at the end of the day. Whereas here, he's more calculating and more Palpatine-like. I'm not saying he's on that level. I'm just saying he's more cold and calculating and does things smartly, not foolishly, going right in. Now, granted, when he meets Obi-Wan, and he quotes, he says, "I've been waiting this for a long time." He does get into that fit of rage there and goes from there. But I'll throw it to you. What at this point with the revenge factor?
Yeah, I mean, he's just obviously he'll murder anybody. This is the animal in him. He'll murder anybody just to draw the Jedi's attention because he knows that will bring Kenobi to him. And then after Kenobi's done, who knows how far he wants to go, because he always just wanted to kill Jedi. But Kenobi right now, because of what he did to him, that's where his focus is at. And then it's the rest of the Jedi after that. But I do like that when they do finally fight, he acknowledges that Obi-Wan uses aggression in the Phantom Menace. He talks about that first battle, and he said, that's not the Jedi way, and you're losing, and you're doing it again now, kind of thing. And he's taunting Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan is kind of losing it. And I think Asajj Ventress is in there with the battle with Obi-Wan. She's fighting Savage and Maul with Obi-Wan at that point, if I remember that episode correctly. I just watched it a few days ago, and there goes my memory. So, but yeah, I mean, so I love that he points that out, because it's like Dave at that point, Dave Filoni and George, they're thinking the same as us making that Clone Wars episode, that yes, Obi-Wan did touch the dark side when he fought Maul that first time, which I know is off topic from Maul in a way, but
yeah, they're linked. These two characters are linked.
But it's
and that's what we do
interesting.
every time we have a discussion with the characters. Yeah, but go ahead.
But if you're talking about Obi-Wan and Maul, I think they're kind of equal at this point as far as power and who would win in a duel. I think 5 out of 10 duels, it would go both ways. I think that they are a match for each other at this point, because Maul or Asajj, or not Asajj, Asajj,
Savage?
No, Ventress, and I'm getting I'm wanting to put
all
extra
pronunciations.
Yeah, I'm getting extra pronunciations on all these words now.
Well, it's like me and Yoda.
Ventress and Kenobi. Well, I'll just say that Ventress and Kenobi, they kind of have to run in this episode. So,
it's interesting because after that
over them, but that's what I'm saying. I think that he's the power, like they're kind of equals at this point, and I think that that's where you see the arc kind of sliding for Maul here, where it's kind of like it's not that big of an arc, because when we get to the end here, you see that Obi-Wan's arc has been so much greater than Maul's. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, I was going to say, comparably, I guess you could say Maul, this is where he learns that revenge isn't all. I mean, he still wants it, but this is where it begins to wane, where it's like, all right, I've where we've evenly matched. I know I can beat you now, type of thing. And Obi-Wan probably could have one-upped him at this point, or maybe not. Maybe Obi-Wan gets a little bit emotional, or who knows at this point. But it's a draw. They kind of go their way. But then Maul focuses on getting the bounty hunters and all this, the Spice clans and everything else.
Black Suns, yeah.
Black Sun and I forget their name. The what the heck their name? But anyway,
Death Watch.
Death Watch and the others there, that they all come together, and he's creating this army to create a problem for Palpatine. Now his revenge is shifting. I don't know if he even has. See, this is the conundrum with before we get into Palpatine and what happens with that. I mean, obviously he hurts Obi-Wan by killing Satine, and he uses that, and his revenge is basically complete at that point. Like, he took away Maul. I mean, took away something from Obi-Wan that meant a lot to him, like, Maul, Obi-Wan did to him with being the apprentice and everything else. So it was very, I guess, demonic in a way, and calculating that he pulled that off with Satine and hurt Obi-Wan. But Obi-Wan is very stoic, and he kind of he sucked it up and found a way to get through that. I mean, the guy's been through a lot, so I give him credit for dealing that with watching his loved one die in his arms there, which plays into later on in Rebels.
Then Maul doesn't. They could kill him right there, but they don't. And then Maul says, "No, I want him to suffer like I have and live with it," kind of thing, which is probably his mistake, because he did want him dead, and he doesn't go through with it, like, because that's still his motivation years and years later when they end up on Tatooine, and that's so it's just. That's why I say again, Maul is not as smart as he thinks he is. Like, he thinks he knows.
Well, yeah,
he thinks he knows what he wants, but he really doesn't know what he wants. Like, he's all over the place. He doesn't have a plan. It's all kind of it's all kind of rushed, and he's not. I think that's the thing. I don't think that he is patient. I think that he has plans and he can figure stuff out, but I don't think patience is a virtue for him.
Well,
I think he's
I don't
too
think
much
he
of
executes right.
Yeah, and I think he's too much of a bloodthirsty animal to ever see anything through to a long term, because you think of the Sith and they've been waiting the millennia, and Palpatine is an old man and he's like the fruition of like, this is going to be, I'm finally the one who gets to do this, which is kind of lucky in his way, I guess, if you're looking at it from the Sith perspective. But Maul, he's just taking it, and he kind of lucks into the Death Watch thing because they're the ones who find him on the ship, and he just kind of lucks into that situation, and he's like, okay, well, yeah, I'll just try to use this to my advantage, and he shows off his raw power, and they're like, yeah, we can use this guy because he's really strong and powerful. And that's the thing, Maul, he is extremely powerful, like in the Clone Wars, and I think he could give probably most Jedi a run for his money. He just, did the stupid thing like Oberyn in Game of Thrones, and taunted the mountain, and then what did it do? It ended up getting them killed, and I think that's kind of what Maul did. So, but when you put him against like someone like Palpatine, obviously he was no match, and when Palpatine shows up, he easily dispenses of him and Savage.
Well, he says, Master, I've been waiting for you. I've been doing all this. Now, is that BS, or is that him actually because he wants to be?
Oh, I think that was total BS at that point.
You do? Because
I don't know. What do you think?
When I first saw it, and from what I'm remembering, I thought that like he was actually doing that to get back at the side of his master, because that's what meant so much to him back in the day. And maybe at the end that was what it was, but then Palpatine's
but
like,
I remember
no.
In these he was talking about him and Savage being the true Sith. Like he was like, we're the real two Sith. Those are fake. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to again. That's where Maul doesn't think things through. He's just
correct.
He's just saying things because it makes him feel better, basically, I think.
Well, maybe he was just BSing Savage, and really he was trying to call out his master, and his master came finally, and then he was like, well, I can take my rightful spot. And then he's so shocked when Palpatine says, no, and he's like, well, I see you survived your injuries, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, they fight and everything. And I think maybe in a way he thought he could bring Savage in this. Maybe he thought he could, maybe Palpatine came too soon, and he realized, oh, wow, I got the master now. I overthought things, and I thought I was the king, and then all of a sudden, here comes the real deal, and I'm not ready for this at this point. But, all this happens, and then we go from there. And it's very interesting that Maul has a moment where he's very weak in a sense where he's, show mercy on me. And, Palpatine's like, oh, no, there'll be no mercy in that. Like, it's interesting that he would even ask for mercy from his old master. So that's where I wonder if Maul had some kind of affection for Palpatine at that point. Of course, that all washes away, and then we'll get into Sons of Dathomir. So I'll throw it to you with Sons of Dathomir, unless you got anything else to add on with Palpatine there.
No, I mean, that was all pretty well. We can get more into Palpatine because he plays a part in Sons of Dathomir. So, so again, Maul seems to kind of fall for these games that Sidious plays with him, and Sidious is wanting to get at Mother Talzin, I think, is what the main point of these comics is. I might have misinterpreted that, but he wants to eliminate her because he thinks she's more of a threat than Maul is, and he came to her seeking, like they combine dark side and magic together, and like we're like doing things, and then Talzin says that he kidnapped Maul from him or
right.
her, and then took us as print, but that was her son. She reveals to, I guess, Dooku that like Darth Maul is so I know they call her Mother Talzin, so I don't know if that was just, it's kind of just, this name or whatever, but I guess they're actually saying she gave birth to Darth Maul. Like I should have looked this up and confirmed this before the show, but the comic makes it seem that this is what had happened here. And then I guess just to run through the rest of the comic, and we could talk, or it was a 4-parter, but Talzin sacrifices herself for Maul. She kind of gets like Dooku and Maul had teamed up at one point, but that was all Sidious is doing again in the end. And then Talzin uses Dooku's body, and she's able to like come back and have a body again through that. And then it was like Dooku and Sidious shooting lightning at her, and she's deflecting it, and Maul's like, here, take my power, and touching her shoulder. And then she's like, get back and run. You know, I can't, if I let go right now, you won't survive this. And then the Black Suns take him away and drag him away. And then I guess it's Grievous, it impales her with the lightsabers and kills off her body. I guess maybe her spirit's still alive when the Clone Wars season 6. I can't really remember how that works, but in the comic, this is kind of the way they did it. So, and then Maul's like, no, he's watching, I guess, you know, Mother Talzin. So this is finally a person I think he actually has some affection for, but she always, you know, she was obviously doing stuff for him and, you know, helping him out. So why wouldn't you have affection for a person like that? So again, Dooku kind of because this wasn't a great character piece, these comics for Maul, in my opinion. It was just more of a entertaining story. But I don't think there was a whole lot of Maul, like character-wise, you could get out of this. But what do you think about it?
Well, from what I gather, is Mother Talzin was using him just as Sidious was using him as well. Maybe she had some slight motherly affection, and he obviously she saved him in the end and all that other stuff. So he had some feelings towards her. So I think that, you know, it's just an interesting dynamic between the two. I don't think. He's very much like Anakin in a way where he didn't have much of, like, he was a slave really his whole life. He really wasn't free to, well, maybe to an extent when we get into Rebels and everything, he was free after he gets away from Mother Talzin and Sidious and everything at this point. So it's very interesting I'm curious what happened between this and Rebels. And hopefully we get something on that, because I'm curious how that all went about and why Maul was just off at, Malachor, is that what it was? Yeah, off over there doing his thing, which was very interesting. Because again, he's well, we'll jump right into. Well, you got any thoughts on Mother Talzin before we jump into Rebels? I just quickly, in case you got anything else to say.
No, not on her. I think we got a thing at the end here of the show, so we'll just keep pressing on here with this. I think so. Yeah, but I mean, but I mean, I just love the way, just quickly on Rebels, how he always, you know, I just put in the notes using Ezra, like that's all there is in the notes, which sounds weird, but I love how he just always calls him apprentice. He's so boastful about it and stuff, and that was one of the things I really liked, how they used that character in Rebels.
Well, the interesting thing with him is the fact that he's on Malachor doing his things. He's looking for revenge against the Sith, still, like his master. Like he's ready to take out Sidious and obviously Vader. He's got the temple there, but he knows he needs someone else to come in there, and you know, Ezra comes along, so Ezra's like, oh, well, you are my apprentice, you know, you're worthy because now you are strong in the Force and I need you, and fate brought us together, the Force, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I mean, it's just interesting that he's still seeking revenge to this point. And now I wouldn't even say Kenobi at this point. This is more Sidious, is more of his bigger target, because I guess you could say that he already had his revenge with Kenobi, and Kenobi's still gonna, well, of course, he probably thinks Kenobi's dead because of the Jedi Purge and everything, and that was taken from him, so all he has now is obviously Sidious and Vader. He's got to go and do that. But the interesting thing is, like, when Vader shows up, or the Inquisitor shows up, even with the Inquisitors, he's a little, I want to say, hesitant to even engage. Like, he kind of backs off, and then, you know, he says, well, soon Vader will be around, and he's kind of like, well, I don't want to mess with Vader, which makes me think they've clashed at some point or something has happened. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mystery with what's been going on in between. Why is on Malachor, and it's just kind of, here, let's put Maul back into the scenario once again. Like, that's kind of a...
Well, there's a reason for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, because he's a cockroach. So
yes, and Dave wanted to finish the story once and for all, but continue.
Well, I can't blame him, because I don't think that he wanted to do the story in the beginning.
No, he didn't.
It was George. So I was kind of glad to hear that when he said all that about, you know, Obi-Wan and, you know, and all of that. So, you know, we've talked about that before, so I won't get into it now. But Yeah, I mean, like that was from what I can remember, was just a really cool season. Like, again, I would have watched it, but they were going to like try to make me buy it for like $2.99 on my cable thing. And like, I wasn't going to do it. So, but from what I can remember, it was a really cool season finale. And I did all this other research reading the comics, guys, so please don't hold it against me. But, you know, I really did, from what I remember, I really remember enjoying Maul in Rebels and even in Clone Wars. Even though I didn't agree with bringing him back to life, I did like what they did with him. I thought he was used well. I thought he was, storyline wise, was one of the better used characters. And, you know, I like his action in this season 2 finale that he gets into. And then obviously we get into, he's a little bit of season 3 and he's still trying to coax, you know, Ezra on and everything. But yeah, I mean, I don't really remember the season 2 finale that well. I can't really remember if he was bashful or not, like when facing the others, but, you know, I think he held his own.
Playing that
he held
way.
his own, but at first, yeah, like he was like, oh, I can't. He was playing Yoda, basically.
Yeah, really. Yeah, he was the Kane. He was looking weaker than he was, and then he revealed himself.
But yeah,
to be stronger than that.
once he had to do it, like he came unleashed, basically. You know, Maul unleashed. You know, the animal came out eventually.
It's funny because like he doesn't. It's funny how quickly Obi-Wan, the revenge of Obi-Wan, just comes back to him. Like when it's revealed the twin sons and all that, and it's Kenobi, and you know he's
that's
alive.
why I think Maul is a little bit schizophrenic or something. He can't decide what means more to him: getting back at Sidious or getting back at Kenobi.
I think his problem is he never had at one time he had a purpose, which was being the Sith apprentice and maybe being the heir to the throne. But let's face it, as Sidious could see, he's like, yeah, you're not cut out for this. You're just a weapon. That's all you are, and that's all you'll ever be. You'll never. Now, Count Dooku was a little step up and so forth, but you know, you could even argue that Anakin was really just a weapon, and he wasn't going to be much of a leader as in Sidious or anything like that. But that's a story for another day or something like that. But yeah, continue, Joa.
So yeah, I guess I just want to move into because we got another little tiny segment here at the bottom we really need to get to.
Okay.
But I just wanted to tie this up with, you know, Darth Maul's death basically in Rebels. And I'm not going to I don't think we need to go through the details of his plan or anything like that. But, you know, he shows up and he faces Obi-Wan. This is what it's all built up to. This has been ever since he was cut in half and they brought him back and he was taunting Obi-Wan to come get him in Clone Wars. That's what it's all led up to. You have Darth Maul, who's older. He's just as old as Obi-Wan. He doesn't look it, I guess, you know, I guess his
Zabrak.
Zabraks, I guess they age a little better than humans because he still looks you know, pretty good, except, you know, at least from the torso up. And then and then you have Obi-Wan and then here you have it. And I love Steve Stanton did Obi-Wan in this, right?
Yes.
And it's absolutely fabulous. And he's honestly, it's like right up there. Like, I mean, it's like almost more wise than anything Alec Guinness ever said in the movies. And I hate to say that, but maybe it was just written a little bit better than, I mean, just, you know, because he's like, if all you care about is taking life, you know, you have nothing, you know, whatever that line was, it was fabulous. And then, you know, they both ignite the lightsabers and then they go, and then it was over, you know, just like that.
Well,
so,
this shows how it goes back to what you were saying. Maul thinks he's got Obi-Wan and he's smarter than him. He's got this revenge. He sees Obi-Wan as this weak old fool now. And he says, you've become like a rat or whatever it is. You're just not there. And I'm finally going to have my revenge. You have no upper hand. But Obi-Wan knows him so well. They know each other's moves so well. But Obi-Wan knows that he doesn't want to, like Maul, which is funny because he did adapt all the way through to get to this. But at the heart, Maul always gives into his anger and his lust. And he doesn't, just like Anakin, like, you know, with the whole, I got the high ground. Why are you going to do this? And Obi-Wan's like, all right, well, this is how it's going to be. And he knew he was going to do, because it's Maul. And Maul is all about this, like, I guess you could say symbolism at the end of the day when he kills Satine, and then he's gonna use the same moves he used on Qui-Gon to kill Obi-Wan, because that would be poetic, I guess you could say. And I killed your master the same way I killed you, that type of thing. And here we go. It's just one move, boom, boom. You didn't adapt and all that, and I took you out. And it was very symbolic of Maul's character, where he's just so one-dimensional, one-focused. He doesn't see the whole picture. Like, he didn't see the whole fight. He just saw that one rush in, take him out, do the hit in the face thing, and then boom. And he didn't realize Obi-Wan was going to do the cutting thing and then get you there. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't, Obi-Wan has had so much more to think about than Maul, I think. Maul has festered on the same couple of ideas in his mind for so many years, and Obi-Wan has had so much more to think about, like in a complex way. And I'm not going to get into all of it here. You can all imagine, you know what it is. And I mean, but Maul is revenge, and it's a one-track mind, and Obi-Wan has to worry about, the Jedi and this and that. My best friend did this, and it's all this kind of stuff. And Obi-Wan's mind it's kind of everywhere. So you would think almost in a way the one-track mind could have an advantage there, but Obi-Wan is much more wise because of this. So I said back earlier in the episode that at the time in the Clone Wars and even in the Phantom Menace, 5 out of 10 times, either one of them would win that duel. Now, it's not even a match. Obi-Wan completely outmatches him. It's, and obviously, I mean, we see the result, but he completely outmatches him 10 out of 10 times. Obi-Wan Kenobi at that point in time defeats Darth Maul, because Darth Maul's character arc is like it's a little bitty small arc, and Obi-Wan's
it's like A to C.
Yeah, it's A to C, and Obi-Wan's is A to Z.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the way their arc goes, and Maul's is just not very. I'm not saying it's not well done.
Well,
it's what his character was meant to be, but and he says, I find it funny in the end. He says us. He says when he asks about is he the chosen one, and Obi-Wan says yes. He says he will avenge us. So now it's not about my revenge with Obi, because now he has a connection with Obi-Wan. So in a way, this is a little bit of a stepping stone arc in his death. He says he makes a connection with Obi-Wan, and he says, well, Sidious betrayed me, and he betrayed you in the Jedi. He tricked you, and he did these things. So really, he's looking at it from Luke will avenge both of us. Like he'll. Well,
he doesn't say revenge. He says avenge, which is a bit different. Yeah,
well,
which is different. Which is somewhat different. I think revenge is more of what's in your heart, and avenge is more of justice.
Yeah,
I guess you could say.
Yeah, but I still think that he's looking at it from a
dark side,
the wrong point of view. Like, while he's making a connection to Obi-Wan, it still limits that character arc for me, because he's still looking at it at those grounds, because it's not about like he will avenge us. Obi-Wan's not looking at it like us. He's looking at it as the galaxy. The galaxy.
Yeah.
And we got to set right things in the galaxy. It's not about avenging the Jedi. Yeah. It's about setting things right in the galaxy. So I still think Maul is a little bit misguided here, even in death. But he's kind of seeing the light here, and he's kind of seeing the real way. But even in the end, he's still such an animal, and still so he just like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, he's still
blinded.
His dark side, like the dark side, that's his whole life, and you have to feel sorry for him. And I think Obi-Wan does feel sorry for him, and in a way, I think it makes, when you watch his death scene, it makes the audience feel sorry for him, because it's like, dude, no, you still don't get it. And it's like, you want to get it. We get it. You want to get it, but you still don't get it. And it's sad. It's sad.
I think at the end, though, I'll say this, if it's not a redeeming quality or anything like that, is I think that him and even Obi-Wan both have that connection, and they both were hermits in a sense for a good portion of their life there. And I think they both have that, that sadness that they share and the betrayal that they've felt. Obi-Wan just obviously he meditates on it more, and he's on the good side, and he looks at the whole picture, and he realizes things happen for reasons and whatnot, and he's not blinded by hate and all that other stuff. So, there is a difference there, but I think Obi-Wan realizes they were more brothers in arms than anything else, and Obi-Wan has that compassion, and that was a touching moment because Obi-Wan just closed his eyes. Now you wonder, would Maul do that to Obi-Wan? I don't think so, but maybe he would with that one moment of like, well, he'll avenge us or whatever. To me, it's almost like in Maul's last breath, it's like he needed some kind of a purpose to his death, and he was justifying it there.
Maybe you get that clarity in death. Maybe it's like that one moment of clarity, and maybe that's what it was for Maul, because he never had it up until then, and you can't. It's hard to argue that he did, but yeah.
Well, and anyway, I think he was maybe even fooling himself in death and trying to come up with a reason why he even died while he was in his last moments. But in any case, I think we're done with Maul. I think we did a pretty good job for Maul, to be honest. I thought that went better than I thought it would go. But we're going to move on to our Patreon questions. We have 2 questions, and this is our $5 tier. So if you got a question you want to ask Joe or I, this will get you right at the head of the line, so to speak. So, Joe, I'll throw it to you. What do we got?
Yeah, so I haven't read these questions in a minute, so I'll just read them, and then I guess we'll both know what they are. So Jamie says, I'm wondering if you guys have thought about what would be appropriate poetic death for Luke and Leia. What would the fans accept? I've kind of been thinking that since they came into the world together, maybe they'll leave the world together, maybe one sacrificing themselves for the other, in contrast to their mother's death. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Thanks. I love seeing. Okay, well, yeah, thanks. Yeah, she loves seeing the alerts pop up for us. So he or she, I'm not sure if it's a male Jamie or a female Jamie. I'm sorry, Jamie. You can correct this later. But I don't know. What do you think on this, Mike, right away? This is actually one of the best questions I think we've ever had.
It's a tough one. Because, see, the thing is, Carrie's death, and I don't really like to go there because this has been an uncomfortable issue with us, and we haven't really talked about it much, but we will here because this is, the part of the question. So I think things kind of are, I don't know where they're going to go with this, but I assume Carrie will die or Leia will die off screen, or there'll be some kind of sacrifice. I always thought she was going to sacrifice herself with Kylo, and that brings him closer to the light. I could be wrong on that. As far as Luke goes and them going together, I don't want that at all. I think it's a gradual, like Han was episode 7, then I think Leia would be 8, and then Luke would be 9, although I would like him to go on to 10 and then maybe die in 12 or something. But, I just really don't want to see Luke die on screen. That's probably my issue. But I'm not sure if fans are going to accept when Luke dies. I don't know. It's going to be tough. And that's not to take anything away from Leia, because Leia is an amazing character as well.
Well, I just want to give, something to this question. It's a beautiful question, actually. It's a really beautiful idea. Now, whether they would actually do it on screen, I have my doubts. I mean, that's just my sensibilities tell me that. Yeah, but the way where they tie Padme in here, because with the kind of
the broken heart.
Because the broken heart. But if you look at it in a way, Padme's Force essence, if you will, maybe kept Anakin alive, and there's theories to that, and you can look into that. And I'm not going to get into it here, but Padme. Maybe she did sacrifice herself in a way. Maybe she didn't just give up, which, could play into, maybe it'll be a discussion we have with a Leia discussion when we have here in a few weeks that we have planned. But I'll say this, the question and the idea is actually very beautiful. Like, I just want to say that I don't think that necessarily it's going to happen, but it's a neat idea, and I've never thought of it. And if they could do that, and if they were to pull it off, I think it's a beautiful sentiment. And I want to use that word beautiful as much as I can, because I really do. I think that I think that's a really good idea. Like, I don't think that they'll do it necessarily, but you see where, I mean, Jamie uses the word poetic here, and it really is like it's kind of a cool idea. It's kind of like the Notebook when, they're like, can our love take us, our love can do anything. It's that kind of sappy, romantic kind of thing. I'm not trying to do that with Luke and Leia, but
they've been there, done that already.
Oh, yeah. But you get where I'm going. So,
I don't see that happening. I mean, sure, they might be able to pull it off, and maybe you could say, all right, well, if they both go together in 8, then in 9 it really truly is Rey and Kylo and the rest there, and the old, I don't even want to use this word, but the old ties are broken, and we can go forward, so to speak, with the new characters, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm for that as well, but I just don't think. I think Luke is such a key, and I think Leia was going to be, but unfortunately for us, Carrie passed away. But they say her way things end in 8. It's a beautiful thing for her. It's a good performance and everything. So we have that, and we should enjoy that, and then go from there. And I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure. I don't believe in the whole dying together. Will it be a sacrifice? Yes, I think both would sacrifice. I think that's just in their characters that they would sacrifice for either family, friends, or as Leia would do it for the resistance.
Leia would, and Luke has already demonstrated in the past that he would. So
exactly. All right, well, let's get on to the next one. Joe, what do we got here?
Yeah, Daniel says, he had a little thing here, but then he says, I want, what old EU character, this is an easy one, Mike, kind of maybe. What old EU character would you want to see on screen in a film? Not a comic novel or animated series, but you could take someone like Thrawn. I'd be interested to see what you think would work. So I guess...
Can't use Plagueis.
the Plagueis is not EU. Plagueis is
that's
canon.
True. That's right. That is true. True technically, but I'm going by the novel.
We're not going to. I don't think either one of us will take Thrawn, so I don't think that's a worry.
No,
here.
I wouldn't do that. Maybe Revan. I guess I don't know why he intrigues me. I like Revan. I never really thought of this, to be honest. Well, how about you?
I would take Mara Jade just to piss you off.
You're a jerk, but
we'll
no.
That's
the end of this question in this podcast.
I'm just kidding. No, I wouldn't take her. I would take. I think you're on the right along the right lines of Revan. I would like to see. You know who I would. You know who I would take. Well, Bane is canon.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Technically, from the Clone Wars, because he talked to Yoda right in the thing there.
And Luke did his voice there, Mark Hamill. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you know who I'm going to take? I'm going to take Naga Sadao from the comics. Like, I've always going back to SOTOR, Star Wars: The Old Republic. They talked about that guy a lot, and they used him. He was in he's a Sith species. I would love if they went back that far and they actually did like a Sith species, and you did a Naga Sadao movie. I would love that. I would love that more than a Revan. I'd love it. I'd love it if you could integrate that somehow. Ludo Kresh and Naga Sadao. Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. I would take Naga Sadao every day of the week. Plus, his name is just cool.
Well, there's Darth Nihilus. I guess that's how you pronounce it. That's how I always pronounce it. I could be wrong. We all know.
I played that game. The guy didn't do anything.
Yeah, but he was awesome.
He was in one cutscene. He's literally Boba Fett and Darth Maul combined.
That's why we got to have him. But I don't know.
Let's cut him in half and bring him back to life and throw him down a Sarlacc pit and bring him back to life again.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm all for that. Everyone's always coming back and stuff. I don't know. I always loved Ben Skywalker, but we got Ben Solo now, so that ain't gonna happen. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I never really thought of this question too much, but
I liked both of these questions tonight. So that's our $5 Patreon perk, and we've got several $5 Patreons, but those are the two questions that have come in so far. So if you guys are already a perk of this, you can send your questions in through the Patreon or through the email at cantinacastfanmail at gmail.com. Or, if you want to sign up for the Patreon, it's HTTPS. I don't know why that is. Patreon.com/theCantinaCast, or you can search for us on there, and you can sign up for this $5 tier. And what that does for you is, besides just getting Cantina After Dark and getting all of our regular podcasts early, and it gets other little things that we decide to throw up randomly, what it does for you is that there's only 15 slots in this tier, and it gets you a question on this show, on the main Cantina Cast show, once per month. So we'll be doing this at the end of the shows when people send these questions in. And so sign up for the Patreon, the Discord, check us out. Am I supposed to be wrapping the show up now, Mike? Because I'm doing it.
Yeah. I was going to tell you to wrap the show up. So,
I'm just kind of doing it anyway. So, check out our Discord and get into the chat. If you need help finding it, email me at cantinacastfanmail@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter. We will send you a link if you can't find the Discord, but it's on our social media pages like Instagram, which is at the Cantina Cast. And so is Twitter at the Cantina Cast, and Facebook.com/the Cantina Cast. And
that's it.
Next week, I think we're doing some Force Friday coverage, maybe. And then I think we're going to do some Joseph Campbell finally, because I've had it, and we're going to do Joseph Campbell.
All right. Well, we're out of here, folks. Thanks for listening to us, and we'll see you next week. You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.